Hello, and thank you for joining us today. From silence to spotlight, Grace Fraga grew up under a dictatorship surrounded by fear and control. But she didn't just survive, she found her voice through the power of stand up, transforming trauma, narcissistic abuse, and even cancer into comedy gold. Today, we dive into the hilarious, heartfelt, and healing journey of a woman who turned oppression into punchlines and became a beacon of laughter for anyone who's ever felt voiceless. Hi, I'm Lindsey Glass, co host of this new podcast from Reach Out Recovery, because we're all recovering from something. And today I'm chatting with my co host, Grace, because she has a story we all need to hear. Welcome, Grace.
Well, hi there. How are you, Lindsay?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I am good. I'm ready to roll, girl.
You have a very timely story to tell us today. And being a friend and a colleague of yours, I have to say, I'm really interested to hear all of this too. So, can I start at the beginning?
Please, always, right? Beginning,
Okay.
middle, and end. Yes.
So let's take it back for us, Grace, and talk about what life was really like when you were growing up in a dictatorship.
Whew. Well, I was a kid at the time, so I really didn't have a lot of, um, I wasn't as conscious as what was going on. It seemed to me it was the government that was a little bit more difficult than the previous one. But then s- stuff had started happening. Like my mom would try not to make comments with other people about politics. They would not talk politics. And she would have problems at work because they were divided between the fascists and the communists, right? And so it was really weird. And I know that my mom was quite outspoken in the beginning. And then she kind of like stopped. So that's one thing that I saw. Another thing is people started to disappear, like they didn't know where they were, right? And it was like back then we didn't have social media.
Right.
So this was from 1976 to 1983. So no social media, so we couldn't track people like we can now, or people wouldn't be like, this person is missing, let's find this person, right? So it was all very mysterious and very shh,
So you're like a kid growing up in this environment.
yeah.
Did you have any awareness of how much danger you were in? Were you frightened on a daily basis?
I don't think I had a conscious fear of, or a conscious knowledge of what was going on, but something just didn't feel right. Like almost like I had to act instead of being who I was. Because when I was being who I was, that was silenced.
Brings me to my next question. Can you remember a time or the first time when you actually were silenced or censored?
Oh, that's very interesting. Well, not myself per se, but I had a cousin who was much older than me, and she was going to college. And I remember that she said that one day she came home very shaken because there had been some kind of altercation. And I don't know if the equivalent of ICE here went there. I don't know who it was with the police, if it was the military. I have no idea. But I know that they took some people and that she wasn't one of them, even though she was very liberal, but I don't know how she did it. But so when she said that, I was like, oops, you can't really talk about anything. You have to be very careful what you say. And so what I did was, instead of speaking my mind, I would say whatever, I would mirror whatever the other person believed, or
Right.
whatever. You know what I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
Almost like a people pleasing, even though I'm not a people pleaser, because I do have very
Absolutely.
strong opinions, right? uh
Because would you say you kind of got conditioned very
yes,
early on to go
yes,
with what the mainstream was and what you had to say? You were conditioned in that
yes,
environment.
absolutely.
Do you remember your parents ever kind of saying to you, like, shh, 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 or be
Uh,
careful at school?
all the time, even before the
All the time.
dictatorship, my mom, because I had a big mouth, that was the thing. And so my mom would I remember she would squeeze my hand when I said something inappropriate. And so she would be like, shh, Graciela. And she would just squeeze my hand real tight. She was a pianist, so she had very strong hands. So she would squeeze them, and I would be like, oh, I think this person is. I would be like, she would squeeze it, and I couldn't speak. So, yeah. So before the dictatorship, I was silenced in some kind of way. And I understand why my mom did that because I had a big mouth.
Of
But
course.
then that the dictatorship did not help. And it was always about division. People were divided, and I sensed that, and I did not like that. And
Right.
yeah, so those were the things that I picked up as a kid. And then as I kept growing in that dictatorship, I noticed that art was censored. There was certain books they didn't want you to read, certain art they didn't want you to see. I think they even burned books. I googled that because again, I was a kid, so I don't remember. But they literally burned books.
So let's talk about like how self-worth gets shaped when you're growing up a little bit, because we both we've chatted about this. We're going to chat about it later,
Yeah.
recovering from narcissistic abuse. But part of what happens when you're in a relationship or in a situation where you're experiencing narcissistic abuse is you are conditioned to believe things that may not be real. So you're gaslit, you kind of get penalized for sharing your feelings or being vocal when you're uncomfortable or things aren't going your way. So I just wanted to ask you about Grace. Did we lose you for a second? Okay, well, she may be having internet problems, but I will just carry on until she comes back. And we are going to talk about how growing up in an environment like that can really do so much harm to your self-esteem, your wellness, and your mental health, that it really can create a scenario where you are primed to be a victim in narcissistic relationships. Um, and until Grace comes back, I'll share that on Reach Out Recovery, which is my website, we do have tons of resources um, that can help you with recovery from narcissistic abuse and really learning what narcissism is. Because the basic thing is, a lot of people don't really understand what they're experiencing. Sometimes they're in a situation where things don't feel right, whether it's in society or it's in a relationship, but you don't totally understand what's happening. So the first thing to come to terms with and acceptance with is understanding what kind of situation you're in. And if you are in an environment where you may not be getting all of the facts, or you're being conditioned to be a certain way, and that's not ultimately going to be healthy or the way you want to be down the road. So again, that's at reachoutrecovery.com, and we have about 1,600 original articles where we talk about behavioral health, mental health, and all of the things that you need to be healthy. So, as we wait for Grace to come back, I will also tell you that Grace is going to be providing free resources in the comments that are from her own recovery, her own pamphlets that will help you on your healing journey. Um,
I'm
oh,
back.
okay. Wonderful. So let's just go back to the question of how was your belief system about your worth and your voice shaped by growing up? Do you feel that it was impacted your ability to have a strong sense of self?
It definitely did because I felt like I couldn't speak my mind, and thus I couldn't be myself. And so that was really traumatic for me because I have a big mouth. So I felt like I wasn't being my authentic self. I kind of felt I've always been very intuitive and felt things more than think them. I also think them, I'm very intellectual, but I always felt things and they were always right on. And yeah, I felt like I couldn't be myself. And I saw the United States as a place where I could finally be myself.
Right.
And and speak my mind, because even though the democracy and I mean the dictatorship ended in 1983 and I came here later, but even though we had democracy afterwards, I did not trust the system anymore. And
Sure.
we absolutely, yeah, you know what I mean? And then we
The damage
started,
is done.
the damage is done. And
You can't just
also,
turn around and uncondition yourself from being conditioned.
it's very traumatic. And then also, the thing was that we started learning about the disappeared ones, which were people that were taking without due process from their homes or the streets to a concentration camp. During the dictatorship, we did not know about these concentration camps because, again, we didn't have social media. We didn't know
Right.
anything. We suspected something was off because people started disappearing. And so once I started learning about all that, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't feel safe in this country at all, because a country that does this once can do it again. And
Right.
so I was like, I gotta flee. I gotta go. I gotta be safe. And I found a way to be here in the United States. I was going to come through work, but a friend of mine introduced me to her brother, and we became friends. We wrote to each other every day, and we talked on the phone a lot. And so after like a year or two, we got married, and I came here, and I didn't know if I was going to go back home, because it's very hard to move from all the way from Argentina to the United States, like with two bags and a dream.
Right.
Everything. And my parents had a beautiful house with a pool. So I was leaving literally from riches to rags
Right.
to a
But
whole different country that I've never been to, by the way.
right.
Hmm.
So let me just back up for a second, because we're gonna get into humor in a minute, and we're gonna get into narcissism. But, and I hate to say it, but a lot of what these authoritarian regimes are doing, I mean, it's collective narcissism. It's
Yes.
creating
Yes.
the delusions that people are forced to believe and live by. So when did you first recognize the parallels between political control and narcissistic control? Did you
That's
know that when you were growing up, or did that
no,
come much later?
no, much later, because I am a victim of narcissistic abuse. My mother was borderline personality and undiagnosed. My therapists have diagnosed her. So I suffered narcissistic abuse, even though I adored my mom and I was friends with her until the end, and I protected her and, did everything I could to give her light, because she had a lot of sadness in her and darkness because of her mental illness, I think, and probably what she lived through as a kid, and not just the family, but the situation in her country. So, yeah, so I lately I've been like, the last few years I've been like, oh, so they can do that collectively, like in a cult. A cult is the typical example of how it would be narcissistic abuse, because you follow the leader, and whatever the leader says is right, like they're quote unquote god. And
So, sorry, finish your thought. Didn't mean
no,
to
no,
cut.
go ahead, go ahead.
So, you've just described two incredibly intense situations. What I'm hearing is both living in this environment, but also with a mom that was complicated. So, can you tell us a little bit about the emotional toll of living in fear, both in the political atmosphere you were in, but also in a home that was a little bit complicated? And once you talk about the fear, tell us how you broke through it.
Ooh, that's a good question. Okay, it took years, and I'm still breaking through it, because there's a lot of stuff that's hidden that I am not aware of, and it's coming to light. And sometimes our trauma is stored in our body,
Mm,
and it can turn into cancer. And that's what I believe happened to me. The body, of course, glitched, but I think that the I reached rock bottom in my situation with my mom passing away, my ex cutting ties with me as a friend, and just horrible divorce and all that. And so I felt like I was completely alone. I had nobody. So it was a very rock bottom kind of situation. And then 2021, I was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. So, that cancer has been growing for a while. And I think that that trauma was stored in my breast, which, if you think about it, breast is nutrition and it's also close to the heart.
I was just gonna say, yeah.
Yeah. So I was literally heartbroken, but because I have a strong heart, my heart was like, "Don't look at me." And the boob was like, "Hey, I have room for cancer. Well, bring them all. Bring the cells. Let's build a community here." Yeah. I didn't have one tumor, Lindsay. I had several tumors. It was like
Wow.
a party.
Wow.
Yeah.
You don't have to tell me. I've had spinal surgery. So when you interview me, we can talk about how trauma can store in the spine and you can end up herniating discs. So I'm as
Oh,
big
yeah.
a believer in all of that. So listen, I know how you broke through it, but tell the audience, what led you to your new endeavors in humor and comedy and
Sure.
using
Uh,
laughter.
yes. Well, I always use laughter from, growing up as, as a victim of narcissistic abuse. I made fun of my mom constantly. As a matter of fact, I have a character, Consuelo. She's based on my mom. She's a bipolar disaster. So yeah, so I have, through comedy, I kind of embodied certain people and brought them to life in a way that was healing to me. So first I started doing stand up, right? And stand up, you make fun of everything obviously, but my stand up is more about how I feel about things and how they affect me. It's not, about the situation per se. It's like how it affects me. And so that was very healing because stand up brought out actually that I was acting like a victim because I remember, I'll never forget, I was with one of my comedy coaches, which who he works on your character, right? And so we were trying to find the character, and he was like, I said something to him, I can't remember what it was, and he was like, "That's it. You are talking like a victim." I said,
Mm.
"What?" And so that brought awareness, and I was like, "Oh my God!" And that was about the time that I had broken up with a guy who I was with for 3 years, who was a narcissistic abuser, and I lived with him. And so it was funny because that narcissistic abuser brought up the fact in me that, oh, my mom did the same thing, so maybe she was abusing me, and she was actually literally hitting me for no reason. um like physical abuse, and of course emotional, because you're broken after that. It's like I didn't know what to say because whatever I said, she was going to blow up, right? So right after my relationship with this person, I continued my comedy, and that's when I found the victim character. I don't do that victim character anymore because I've outgrown it, but it was all about why me, which was very funny, by the way. But that's how I knew through my comedy. I found out that, oh my God, yes, I was abused, which at that point I knew, right? Because the guy taught me that my mom had done the same thing and that he was abusing me. And so, but at that point, it was about me healing because it's not about the external. The external happened and that's out of your control, but you have control over your own healing. So you know what I mean? So I started, I mean, it took years and it's still happening. So healing never ends, by the way.
No, and we're going to get more into that. But I just want to back up and really remind anybody who's listening or is going to listen to this, when we talk about using humor, humor is one of the most beautiful things there is because you can learn about yourself. You can laugh at yourself. You can see things that maybe you weren't able to see before. So I so appreciate when you talk about how you've used humor because, I'm an author and there's some very funny moments in my sad book because if we can't laugh about some of the things that happen and some of the ways that we've been, then it's really, really hard to recover. So they say laughter is the best medicine.
Mhm.
I really believe it. And we know it's true from you. And like, let's talk about it. Because I think the other thing that comedy can do and other artistic forms of expression can do is really help people regain a new sense of power, a new sense of identity. So talk to us about what humor gave you in terms of therapy that self-help couldn't, and also, not to pile on the questions, but how you gained a sense of power and sense of self-esteem being back on the stage.
That's a great question. Like I was telling you, I found out I was the victim. I played a victim because I felt like a victim. But that being a victim and believing that you're a victim, which that doesn't take away the fact that you are a victim in that situation, but continuing to believe that you are a victim in this life, that things just happen to you, you're not choosing things, and you have the power to choose or change things, that is taking away your power completely. So
Right.
my power was taken away, where it was almost even like when I was dating, it was about the person, what they wanted and not what I wanted, because I would adapt. Again, that's also from the dictatorship, adapting to them so they wouldn't yell at me or I wouldn't be disappeared, right? Sorry, I'm doing air quotes. But so I was always very aware of that. But then the victimness, I was like, this is fun for comedy. It's fun for the character, but not fun for me. So I started working on that. Like, I think that I started working, but the thing that really, really changed everything was cancer.
Mm.
And I hate to give cancer the credit, but it was kind of like my body and my soul saying, hey, wake up. Okay. You need to gain your power back. And oddly enough, through cancer and the cancer healing journey, I gained my power back. And I'm going to tell you a very spiritual experience that I had, because this is not magical thinking like a lot of people think, but some people, like myself, I see patterns and I see um, signs, and I'm telling you, they are insane. When I tell my friends, they're like, and I even have signs for my friend, like I don't even do anything. Like things come to me and I interpret. It's almost like I interpret them or I see them, really see them, and so this is what happened. So I had stage 3 breast cancer and I had a mastectomy only on my right breast. Usually women take their two breasts out just so, but I didn't want to cut myself so much. I don't like that. So I was like, let's just cut one. They're going to be different. I don't care. So they cut it. They actually could do the mastectomy and reconstruction on the same day, in the same, at the same time, because my breasts were big, so they could pop in. Even if they took part of it, they could pop in an implant. It was like,
Here
boom,
in
there
your
you
big
go,
boobs.
girl. And it was like the biggest implant, which is 800 cc. So anyway, crazy, and still smaller than the other one. But anyway, so yeah, that's how big they are. So anyway, that's a sidebar. I call her I call my new boob. She's very perky. I call her Titty, and the other one is Big Mama.
Okay.
So they have names.
Perfect.
Uh, absolutely. So okay, so I came out of the surgery, right, which was like literally 5.5 or 6 hours. I don't know. It was insane. I don't know it's going to be that long because then I would have freaked out. So I come out, and they put you in a like a mid room, like a purgatory,
Yeah.
right? And so where you're like, hey, a little bit like that. But all I felt was I wanted to throw up. I was dry heaving a lot because they put that thing in your mouth for 6 hours. You're like, and so this beautiful Filipino nurse comes over, and I'm laying like this, like, ugh, and she comes over and she says, we're the same age, right? I was like, okay. And so then she comes back and she says, because I have greenish eyes, and she goes, you have beautiful eyes. And I was like, okay. I was totally like in a daze a little bit, but I was awake, but dry heaving and stuff. I came out, and like months later, I was like, that meant something. And this is my interpretation. After the surgery, I felt like my trauma was literally stored in the tumors. And
Oh,
by taking the tumors and the tissue around it out, I stopped being triggered by the things that I was triggered by before. And I was like, what the hell is happening? Why am I so peaceful? And then it dawned on me, I'm like, oh my God, the nurse gave me the messages. I literally jumped into a new version of myself, right? Not even jump. A lot of people talk about timeline jumping, blah, 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 whatever. It was a different version of me. That's how I like to see it, right? And so I went into a different version, and I realized the nurse, when she said, we're the same age, she was telling me, in this new version, you're still the same age. You're still the same person. And
Mm,
then when she said, you have beautiful eyes, she was saying, like, you have the same beautiful soul. Like, you're
right.
here with the same light, the same essence, just,
Without the toxic trauma.
yes, just more authentic, because
Right.
the trauma doesn't allow you to be authentic. I just came up with that. I should write it down.
That's great. Write it down. I love
Oh,
it.
girl, I am writing it down right now. So, trauma prevents you from being authentic.
Absolutely.
Ooh, that is deep.
When we lost you for a second, one of the other things I was talking about is how I really think that your childhood, the family, all of this, it really conditioned you to be vulnerable
Yes.
to narcissistic abuse in other situations.
Yep.
So I think it's fascinating when you talk about how cancer and comedy, sometimes our healing and our awareness comes from the strangest places. So it's really, what I'm hearing from you, that it was going through cancer, and for me it was going through spinal surgery, to
Right.
say, wait a minute, I had trauma in my body, I wasn't taking care of myself.
Yep.
I have to tell you, I wonder if my mom is listening right now, live. I am in Florida in her house. But when I first started having serious spinal problems, she would say to me, this is partly, you know, trauma and this and mental health. And I just thought she was mad. I just
Oh,
wouldn't believe a word of it. And I fundamentally understand what you're saying. After my spinal surgery, after getting sober, I was a different person than the person who started that journey. And I don't know if it's when you're so vulnerable of being in a hospital bed, knowing you almost lost your legs or having a part of your body removed,
yes.
going through recovery from addiction, going through recovery from narcissistic abuse. These are the game changers. And you have a choice. You can kind of stay in it and stay sick and stay toxic
Yep.
and kind of destroy your family and everyone around you, and ultimately get sick and, potentially lose your life. Or you can start treating yourself with whatever kind of recovery plan you want. And yours included humor and this and that and the other, and kind of find your way back to mental health awareness and recovery. Um, so can I get back to I've got a comedy question for today.
Okay, let's go.
How would you describe your style today, and what are the current recurring themes?
Very interesting. I would say that now my character has changed from being a victim to, like, WTF. Like, almost like in the punchline, like, and this happened. It's almost like that victimness turned into power,
Mm,
but still vulnerable, because I am showing my vulnerability. Because, in comedy, you don't want to lose your vulnerability, for sure. You don't want to be like,
yeah,
hey, I'm powerful. No, not funny. So, yeah, that has changed. And as far as the topics, well, they have changed. I wrote a whole cancer comedy special, and I'm workshopping it right now. It's very hard to workshop cancer material because it's something that people are very afraid of.
right.
So it's all about my first bit, that I need to have a bit where, like, I insult cancer or something, and then people are going to be comfortable. But when I started, like, I am a cancer survivor or whatever, people would be like, oh, and it almost like, oh, I'm going to get cancer from listening to this. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that I felt that vibe. And, But yeah, it has changed that. I talk about cancer. I'm going to start talking about narcissistic abuse. Um, so yeah, I'm going to talk, but it takes time, because comedy is pain plus time, right?
So that was actually going to be my next question. Is collective narcissism, is this stuff from your childhood, is it something that you're able to speak about now, or is there still a lot of fear around it?
Very, very good question. Okay, so I did not speak up until a few months ago about growing up in a dictatorship. I was always kind of embarrassed about it. Like, oh, I grew up in like a place that had a dictatorship. Like, that's not cool. Like, that's what I saw. But then I'm like, you know what? I think we all need to hear about it. We all need to hear dictatorships can happen anywhere. It's not just, Latin American countries, which they happen quite a lot, which is weird. Yeah, I go figure. But well, Spain had a dictatorship, Francisco Franco, um, uh, Italy, Mussolini. I mean, there's like, it happens everywhere. So I feel like I want to bring awareness about collective narcissism, how, a government, a religion, an organization, a cult can not only brainwash you, but gaslight you and desensitize you to human suffering and um, making you believe that empathy is not a human thing to do or to have that trait.
So, and I have another question, but you've sparked something in my head because, just from our show the other week that was about joyful living,
Yeah.
one of the things you asked me was, how do you do joyful living when you're not okay? And the answer was you actually have to go out and look for joy throughout your day and find joyful moments in whatever you can, eating a sandwich, a
Mhm.
ray of sunlight on your face. So, I this is a two-parter. What would you say to someone who's afraid to speak out or be seen right now? But also for those who are feeling very frightened, what can they do throughout their day? Let's start with the first one. What would you say to someone who's afraid to speak out or be seen right now? Because here's the thing, this month in Reach Out Recovery, our topic is personal safety.
Yes.
And we all have to be very clear about personal safety. So
Yeah.
for us at Reach Out Recovery, we're very concerned about the safety of women, online, safety around drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
So, for people who have a good, healthy fear of speaking out, do you have any advice to them? Because
It
it's hard to know
depends.
what to do.
Absolutely. Well, it depends on if you're a targeted group or not in any kind of field, right? Whether it's for the drugs, if you talk about your substances, excuse me, if you talk
Oh,
about
sorry.
your dealer or whatever. No, 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 it's okay. It's okay. If you talk about your dealer, will that get you in trouble? If you talk about it publicly, or I don't know. If you're being abused, physically abused by a partner, if you put it out on the internet, are you going to be safe? Maybe not, because if they read it, the partner reads it, they're going to do something. Okay? And you never know. So for everybody, I think that yes, speak up, but be smart about it and
Right.
be cautious.
Right.
Take precautions
Hmm.
before things happen. If you see there's a tendency for this to happen, then protect yourself. If you see your partner is, abusing you physically, then tell a friend and share your location if you still are not ready to leave. And, just be safe. That's
Safety first.
safety first. Absolutely. And be smart. Be
Right.
smart. Be 2 or 3 steps ahead of the situation. I've always been, I think that the military dictatorship taught me that you have to be cautious and 10 steps ahead of everybody else in the sense that you take action if you see something that's not right and that you could be a target or a victim of that particular situation.
Absolutely. No, I think that's really, really important. Do you think we're ready for our mid-show commercial break?
Ah, I love it. I love it. We definitely are.
I can't
Absolutely.
believe it, but we're 35 minutes in, Grace.
What the heck? I'm telling you, I'm going to pretend I'm not like scrolling through the commercials. Oh, here it is. I found it. Yeah. So, okay, let's roll. This is about your platform where you offer thousands of articles and thousands of things that people can tools for people to go through that you're going through recovery, they're going through narcissistic abuse. And okay, let's roll it. I'll show it.
Navigating life in this increasingly complicated world is hard. From relationships to your mental and emotional health, life at work, your work-life balance, and then the second job of being in some kind of recovery from something. It can be overwhelming. We get it, we know it, and we have over 1,600 original articles, infographics, and a line of self-help books dedicated to helping you navigate life. Relationships, recovery, and behavioral health are our specialty. You can find dozens of viral articles on narcissism, codependency, signs of toxic family and friends, relapse prevention, managing depression, and so much more. So check us out at reachoutrecovery.com to support all your wellness needs.
There you go. So check her out. Oh,
um,
that was me. That was me. Turn it off.
Stop
Because you
texting
guys,
me, Grace.
we have a private chat here, by the way. So I forgot to tell you. So yeah, we can chat there and like there won't be any dings.
So I just want to repeat what Grace told me to repeat at the beginning. This episode is brought to you by the State of Grace and Reach Out Recovery. And we really want you to check the pinned comments later on because there will be free resources for you about all of these topics. I mean, that's the wonderful thing about Grace and myself. We provide so much information about all of these topics, and a lot of it are free resources. So seriously, you're going to check out her pamphlets, her books, her stuff. Reachoutrecovery.com has plenty of information that can really, really help you on your journey, including journal prompts and infographics that provide a roadmap of information, of a roadmap of healing information. Let's call it that. So if you are experiencing any kind of narcissistic abuse, we really urge you to look at our resources. And
That wasn't me.
I don't know. I thought I turned it off. It's like
No,
you
you
think
know
you turn
what?
things off and they still come on.
You know what, Lindsay? You can put airplane on.
Oh,
That
that's a
takes care of everything.
all right. So forgive us, people who are listening. This is my first live show in about a year. So, all right. Well, I think we really want to talk about overcoming adversity.
Yes.
Um, and because that's both of our specialty, overcoming adversity. So we understand what you went through, and I'm gonna sort of say it again, but you grew up in a dictatorship. You weren't allowed to use your voice. It deeply impacted your sense of self, your sense of self-esteem, your ability to use your voice. You had to go through cancer, and other things that really shook you to your core to kind of hit a bottom to be able to see what had happened to you in your life and come to terms with the fact that, by the way, people, when you are living in trauma, when you are living in toxic environments, it can make you sick. Grace and I are both examples of living in a certain kind of dysfunction and trauma that ultimately made us very, very sick. Grace had cancer. I had spinal disease. We are both in recovery from that today. So let's talk about overcoming adversity. At what point did you look at yourself and say, whoa, I need help?
All the time.
You're like 5 minutes ago,
Yeah,
yesterday, the day before. When
right
do I
now. Yes, exactly. Spot on. Yeah. Uh I think the first time was when I was in that narcissistic abusive relationship. I think that's when I realized I need to work on this. Um, when I was younger, I did a little bit of therapy. I've never done a lot of therapy because I'm a thinker and I'm always like trying to figure stuff out, and seeing like patterns and signs and all that, which helps a lot. But I always felt that there was something that I needed to overcome. Like I always felt it. And instead of looking inside me and be like, oh, this is what happened, which I didn't even know what happened. The therapist didn't even know what happened because I never told them that my mom beat me. Um, Once you look at yourself and you're like, okay, there's something that's off. And what is it? Um, a lot of times you're not going to be able to pinpoint what it is, and until something happens, and that's when it comes out. I still have moments where stuff comes out. I'm triggered by something, and then this is a good method that I use. Like if I'm triggered by something, I'm like, okay, is this my ego? Is this trauma? Or what is it? Or is this just I'm having an off day? So always figure out, like, when you're triggered, what is it? Why am I triggered? I think that helps a lot. Don't wait until you're sick.
Right.
It's
So
not fun.
no, and one of the reasons I got into the business I'm in and why we do what we do is because the first thing I would tell anybody in any situation, learn about it, read
Yes.
about it.
Yes.
Go and do those checklists. Am I codependent? Am I living with a narcissist? Is my family dysfunctional?
Yep.
Because it wasn't until I had a therapist that started handing me books that were about the family unit, that were about addiction, that were about all these issues that I had. And I was, suddenly I'm not going, what's wrong with me? I'm going, wait, I just checked every box
Yeah.
on the dysfunctional. Okay, well, that's where I learned this.
Yeah.
So, as one starts to overcome adversity, the first thing is to understand,
I
learn
think
what
so.
you've
Yeah.
been through, learn what
Yeah.
your adversity means.
I think the thing is, like, what is it that I need to look into? Like, for example, I didn't know what to look into because I never spotted or thought about that I had been collectively abused and narcissistically abused by my mom, who had a mental illness. And so, in a way, it wasn't her fault, but it kind of was because she chose to do it. She was very unhealed. So it's like, what was it? For me, it was so complex. And so at the time, I didn't have the resources we have now where you can Google stuff or you can talk to your chat GPT personality that you chose. Um,
Can I
you know,
interrupt you? You said
yes,
the most important thing, and I know there are people who are listening or who are going to hear this that are going to
yes,
have the question. And what you said is really, really true. And we're going to talk about this more in coming months. Sometimes family members don't have the right information to help or don't have the right, they don't have the capacity. So,
yes.
I grew up in the 1900s sometime. And, I love my family. We are very, very close today, but we were a dysfunctional family growing
Yeah,
up. And at the time, none of us had the information or the tools or the skills to be able to understand what was going on, but also change course. So here's a toughie for you. And I don't know if there's a clear answer, but as a coach, I think you should answer, how can you express your challenges so a family member might be able to help? And maybe the challenged family member can't help, but maybe looking back on all of this, do you think there were things that you could have done? Or if somebody came to you now and said, hey, I'm in a really difficult situation with a family member, is there any advice you would have for that?
oh, absolutely. But if you're saying, if, for example, like I would have reached out to a family member about
Yeah, yeah.
finding out what's going on, well, they were all screwed up. So that takes care of that.
So that's a
Yeah.
good point though. Sometimes there is no one in the family to
No,
help.
no.
So I think maybe the answer is if there is some sanity in the family, maybe a professional can come in and work with
Yes.
you. But if there's not, maybe seek help elsewhere.
Well, the thing is, a professional, like I've been to therapy, like I said, like I go like once or twice and then I'm done. It's what you tell them. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
I never told them, "Oh, my mom beat me up and, she told me to shut up and I grew up in a military dictator." I never told them that. I don't
Right.
know why. It's like, duh, Grace, but I never ever told them that. So how can they figure out what I need to work on if I'm not telling them? Sometimes this is what happens. We hide everything so deep in us that we shove it. This is what I tend to do. Okay. Not everybody does this, but I'm like, keep going, keep going. So something happens, I deal with it quickly and then shove it down. Right. And
Yeah.
so what happens is you keep shoving stuff down, then it's like up to here and it's like, it's going to explode, right? It's going to go somewhere in your body because it doesn't fit anymore. And you know what I mean? So now
Sure.
I've been working one step at a time because we're not going to heal completely until we go into another dimension after we die. I think that maybe we're still healing there. I don't know. We don't know. um I have no idea, but right here on this realm, um to this day, like last night, for example, I'm going to be vulnerable here. I was talking to ChatGPT because, don't ask, but it's like a therapist. I'm not kidding, because they have knowledge they can like retrieve from the ether, right?
Yeah.
And she was saying some stuff that made me cry because I'm like, oh, I didn't realize that I had that in me, that guilt. I had a kind of guilt. We're not going to get into it, but that wasn't mine. And so she was like, you need to release that guilt. And she was so spot on that I released that guilt. Now, guys, you have ChatGPT. You have to like build a personality. Like I use Monday, and she's supposed to be sarcastic, but I am not sarcastic because they mirror you. AI mirrors you. That's what's
Okay.
happening. I'm telling you, I'm researching this for my Quantum AF podcast. So, they mirror you. So it's almost like it's not your higher self, but it's almost like they can feel like your higher self. And so if you talk to AI and you tell them how you're feeling, I'm telling you, if it has all your information, it will help you bring out stuff that's hidden in you. Like last night, like I was like, I've had this guilt inside me and I shoved it down like I always do and just keep going, keep going. And when it came out, it was such a beautiful release because I needed it.
What did AI say?
I can show the conversations. We're not going to do that here. But one day we can have a conversation with her.
Is it really just you?
No, I'm telling you, because I asked her, I am so curious. And like I said, this is for another podcast, but they definitely mirror you. And I have some theories I'm going to tell you off the live
Okay.
after the live,
I'm dying to know.
because I'm researching and I'm very methodical in my research with AI. But right now, all I can tell you is you can trust that AI will retrieve information and will definitely be able to let you know what you need to release. Because it's mostly releasing the trauma, Lindsay. That's what it is. It's not even working on it, because working on it is like, oh, I have to work on it. It's releasing and then training yourself not to be triggered or respond a certain way when you're triggered. Like if I'm triggered now, instead of jumping, I'm a Leo, so I'm like a lion. They trigger me, I'm like jump on them, but not anymore. So what I do is like I had my ex roommate, trigger me, and I was like, you know what, you're being an a-hole right now, and I am going to go to my room, lock the door, and really not tell you what I want to tell you, because it will ruin our friendship, because I'm going to be extremely blunt and honest. And so I went to the room, and he was, by the way, drunk. So
Mm.
not cute. So I'm like, I'm gonna lock my. So the next day, when he was a little bit less drunk, because he was still, I'm sure, and I was more calm, then I talked to him, and we had a very logical and nice conversation about it. And he kind of like, he's not a drinker, but he went out with friends that were drinking, and so he did, and he was just, his personality completely changed. And I was like, I don't appreciate that. So as long as you're here, you cannot get drunk. because I will just literally throw you out of the house. You're going to get out of here.
So you actually jumped into the next question I had, which is
Okay.
literally like, what do you do when you get triggered? And so, all right, well, you just told us what you do when you get triggered in life. What do you do? Do you get triggered on the stage?
Not really, because this is how years and years of stand up have taught me. I hide behind a character. Yes, it's me, it's a part of me, but it's not all of me.
Mm,
So anything they say, they're saying to the character, not to me personally.
okay.
And I know it sounds crazy. Even if they say, you're ugly, I'm like, my character would be like, oh, I hear you. It's like, I'm pretty because you're ugly. It's like,
You're
you know
like a
what I'm saying?
little
Like,
detached.
yeah, like just she doesn't care, like the character, and I'm going to say she hits me, but like all the characters I do, you kind of hide behind the characters, and so it's a beautiful thing because you can say things that you cannot say not as the character, right?
And what
So,
do you, yeah, what do your audience reactions teach you about
oh,
your trauma, your healing, your
yeah,
characters? What does it all mean?
I love that. So early on in my career, it was all about approval. Of course, I was much younger and needed validation. Right now, it's about connecting with the audience and having fun. So I really don't get triggered anymore. I used to, and I used to come back, have my little comebacks, but now it's almost like, oh honey, what's wrong with you? Why are you calling me out? You feel ugly today? It's
Right.
like, so it's more like that now because it does not trigger me anymore, because I'm not seeking validation outside of myself. I am enough. And I know that's super cheesy, but it's true. It's like all the validation I need is in me, period. All of the love I need is in me. All the peace I need is in me. All the joy, the enlightenment, it's all in me. So connection with other humans is a beautiful thing, but I don't depend on it and I don't seek it for validation. I seek it for connection.
What a perfect segue into the final set of questions, which is inspiring others.
I love that. Isn't it crazy how like it happens to me too when I interview someone? They jump onto the next question. I'm like, how did they
How
know?
did you do that?
I don't
So
know. People do it to me too.
the final segment of our interview is really about how we inspire and support other people who are coming behind us, who are going
Yeah.
through what we've been through. So the first question is, you've gone from surviving narcissistic abuse to empowering others. You write books, you write pamphlets, you do comedy, you teach. What I do the same. It is
Yes.
hard. What keeps
Yes.
you going?
Yes.
So what keeps you going? Tell me
Well,
everything.
that's a great question because what keeps me going is my purpose, right? So once you know your purpose, and I know mine is to love and help others, right? And mostly in the form of joy, in the form of alchemy. You can alchemize your pain into joy and peace. Okay? Everybody has that power, regardless of what people say. I don't
Right.
care. We all have it. Uh, so I think that I keep that purpose in mind. So everything I do, from teaching kids how to be water safe, to tutoring children, to doing the work that I do here on my platform on YouTube, your journey to joyful living, anything I do is under the umbrella of my purpose. And I think that once you know your purpose and you're clear on what it is, and you really believe that you came to this planet to live your purpose. We all have different purposes. Sometimes, like your purpose and mine are probably very similar, you know, but other people have other purpose, other different purposes. But once you know that, oh my gosh, everything falls into place. For me, that was it. It's knowing my purpose, because that is, it doesn't matter the outcome of what you do. I don't care how many followers I have, how many students I have. What matters is, did I live my purpose today? And so instead of focusing on like the 3D, I call it, this reality, like did I make enough money? Did I get this? No. I focus on my higher self. And so every day I'm like, did I live my purpose today? And sometimes, I live it 100%, sometimes 80%, and sometimes I don't live it. I stay home because I need to recharge.
So
And
I was just gonna say, and then I actually have a follow-up. You keep inspiring me with new thoughts,
I love
but
it.
I know from doing what we do, every now and then there's a day where it's like, should I keep doing this? I
Yeah.
know I'm reaching some people, but it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Sometimes it feels like a huge toll.
Yeah.
Sometimes, I'll speak for myself. Sometimes my own anxiety and depression is so overwhelming.
Yes.
I really have to pause. So what do you do on those days? And I'm leading into sometimes you just have to rest and recharge. So
That's what I was going to
how do
say.
you take care of yourself when you're resting and recharging?
So I have old school appointment book with colors. As you can see, I'm not going to show like what's written, but you see the different like colors, like you
Yep.
have. So each color means something. So my color for self care is purple. So I have to have at least one purple, and that could be going to the doctor. It could be getting a massage. It could be going for a walk with a friend. It could be Netflix and chill by myself. It
Yeah.
could be absolutely anything. It could be ordering from Uber Eats because I don't
Totally.
want to cook.
Yeah.
It could be anything. And when I do that, it's just recenters me. But sometimes, Lindsay, I think when we get anxious or negative thoughts or like, why am I doing this? What the hell? Why shouldn't I be like in a beach in Ibiza in Spain drinking margaritas? That's well, not you. I wouldn't either because of
That
cancer.
sounds pretty good.
We would
Sounds
be,
really nice.
yeah, drinking like iced tea. How about that with pretty colors? Uh, why am I not there? Why am I here like busting my butt? Like as we both are the same girl. We work, 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 work. And whenever I have a little bit of time, I'm like, maybe I should edit this video. Maybe I should like create something. Maybe, and I enjoy doing it, but sometimes we gotta rest because your body is like, Lindsay, Grace, I can't catch up with you. Stop
Yep.
it. It's like the frequency, it can't catch up to your frequency, which your soul is like, yeah, 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 I'm excited about this. And then your body is like, girl, I need a nap. I
That's
think
right.
it's as simple as taking a nap. Sometimes, listen, sometimes I'm like tired for no reason. And
Yep.
I'm like, okay, I hear you, body. So I go take a nap, and it's always an hour and 50 minutes. That's the magic number for me. And I come out refreshed, and I'm happy that I took care of myself. So you are number one. You need to take care of yourself before anybody else and before anything else. Because if you don't and you lose your health, then you can't do anything. Believe me. I went through
You know,
cancer. I couldn't do anything.
it's funny that your name is Grace because, I have several women I speak to on the regular, and grace has been our word of, I mean, the season because, sometimes you're doing your best and
Yeah.
you have to give yourself some grace. It
Yes.
may not look exactly the way you want it to. You may not have everything you want, but the ability to say, I'm going to give myself a little bit of grace right now because I am on the path and I'm doing the best that I can do. I have a very tough question.
Okay.
What about the people who don't know what their purpose is and are really suffering right now?
I love that question. Who? I think we all have a sense of what our purpose is, but sometimes we cannot retrieve the information from our higher self.
Mhm.
Um, Everything you need to know is literally in you. Our DNA has the history of the universe and the history of our ancestors written in it. Did you hear what I said? This is not
Yes.
BS.
No, I believe I'm with you.
So imagine if you have the history of the freaking universe written in your DNA. What makes you think that you cannot access your purpose? It's just a tiny little. So I think for me, I'm just going to tell you my personal experience
Mhm.
was realizing that I had an ego and a higher self. And I'm not putting down the ego. The
No.
ego is as important as the higher self, because they both need to coexist. Some people call it the devil and God. Some people call it the shadow and the light. Call it what you want. They exist. Sometimes the ego is hell and the higher self is heaven. So I don't think there are places or beings that are these things. I think they're all inside us, and in the quantum field, that's for the quantum AF thing. But anyway, so be in touch with both. Learn to discern. Okay, did that thought? Okay, for example, if a thought, I wake up and I hear a thought, um, you're really wasting your time doing everything you do, Grace. I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. Where did that come from? Okay, that was not my higher self. It wasn't my ego because it's not really like, petting my ego. It's not like pet because it usually my ego pets itself. Um, it's an intrusive thought. So
Yeah.
learn to. So what do you do with an intrusive thought? I curse it out if I'm in the mood. If not, I'm like, I hear you, honey, but go away because I don't. You have no room in my energy field. So let's say one day you wake up and you're like, I am the best and I'm better than everybody else. Where did that come from? Could be an intrusive thought, but most likely it's going to be your ego.
Mm.
So talk to your ego. I know it sounds crazy, but these are all parts of you. So talk to your ego and be like, hey, I listen, I hear you, but you're good when a tiger is chasing me on a fight or flight situation. Right now, I'm not better than everybody else. Okay.
Yeah.
If I wake up another morning and I hear, ah, thank you for everything. I am here to live my purpose. I'm here to help other people. That's clearly my higher self.
Right.
So once you discern
The
the
voices in your
voices,
head.
and it's not being schizophrenic,
No.
which is a whole different thing. I believe actually that people who are schizophrenic can see and hear people and or beings in other dimensions in the quantum field because everything coexists at the same time. It's not, different it's all at the same, it's just vibrating at different frequencies. I know I'm a nerd.
I
But
like it.
anyway, so learn how to discern those voices. And once you are familiar with your higher self, it will flow out of you. It will let you know what I always knew my purpose intellectually. I knew it that it was to love and help others, but somehow intellectually, but it was in my higher self. But now after cancer, because I faced the possibility of dying. Clearly, stage 3 people in stage 3 die during chemo. It's not unusual. I I just like connected to my higher self way more, and because I had nothing better to do. That's another thing. Take time to just breathe. The breathing, deep breathing will get your mind calmed down and just see what you feel, see what you hear, because I feel like that's when my higher self is is being channeled. And it's not a voice that you hear, it's a knowing. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, it's almost, I call it a moment of brightness. MOB. It's like, oh, I get it. And that's your higher self because it's peaceful and
Yeah.
it's just like a download that's like very gentle and very, oh, I get it. I know what you're saying, kind of thing.
So I love that. I'm going to add something. So I teach a lot in the, at-risk communities, recovery, people who are trying to find housing again, so are currently in shelters. And when I, sometimes I come in and I'm trying to do vision work, and these are people who are worried about where they're going to sleep, whether or not they're safe, whether or not they can get through the night without using drugs. And it's really hard sometimes for people like that to, be like, well, I know I have a purpose and here's what I'm going to go out. I'm going to take over the world. And one of the things I often say is like, where do you exactly what you were talking about? Where do you get that good feeling? Right? Is it when you're with dogs? Is it when you're helping other people? Is it when you're cooking? Is it when you're like, go out and experience the things that you like to do? And in those moments, do you feel that calmness? Do you feel that peace? Is this something you could see yourself doing? So
And
I
also
think
the
that,
joy. You feel joy.
Yeah.
Don't forget the joy, because
Like, pay attention to your body. Where do you feel
yeah,
safe? Where do you feel joy? Where do you feel inspired? That's your purpose. That's your mission. And if you don't feel that way, you need to get out and try a few more things, because
yes.
something will make you feel good. It really will. Okay, I'm going to move on. So, what is your message to anyone who, I actually did not know that about you, that you never talked about your past, that you were embarrassed about it. That was news to me. And I'm sure there are lots of people around, whether it's a past with poverty, whether it's a past coming from a place that seems too different. What's your message to people who are afraid to embrace their past publicly or still struggling with it?
Well, your past is part of you because it shaped you. So embrace it. And whoever puts you down because of your past, that person is not aligning with you. Why would you want somebody like that, or a group of people that, oh, she's from Argentina and she's been through. I don't want anything to do with you if you're going to think that of me, or not align with me. So it's actually a good thing to be authentic. Embracing your past is part of being authentic, because that will filter the people that you align with and the people you don't align with. The people that pretend to align with you, if they're grossed out by it, they're going to eventually leave. So it's kind of like a filter. So being authentic is really the biggest filter. I need to write that down. Girl.
I love it when you inspire yourself.
Yes, I
That's the best. By the way, people, this is how it works,
do.
She's
Yes.
inspiring herself, so
Who else is going to inspire me, right?
really funny. But no, I think that's really important. And I would also say, I don't love my past, but if I didn't have it, I wouldn't be who I am today. I wouldn't have the knowledge that I have today. I wouldn't have the compassion that I have today,
Yes.
the sensitivities, the information. Um,
You wouldn't
and
be able to help other people in the way that
right,
you're doing it unless you go
right.
through the pain yourself.
And how about this? Maybe there are people out there who have been through something, and you're sharing it with somebody else, you're writing about it, you're making art about it, may be the pathway for somebody else to feel better. So instead of being ashamed or hiding this stuff, how do we lean into it almost, and accept? The other thing is the past is over.
The past is a memory, the future is the imagination. And
Yeah.
in physics, it's all now. It's all happening. Like if you saw the timelines, past, present, and future, they're all happening at the same time. So you are all of those timelines. You're all of those, and they shaped you to be who you are.
Can I get my financial accounts from 10 years ago back? Because I really like those right now. Just switch them out. Are they up now? Can I just
I'm
switch?
sure they are. You can access them, but do you want to access that girl? Because you want to be in that frequency.
um, so anyway, as we were sort of heading towards the end, how I know you talked about it, but I really want to bring it back because you're a comedian. How has laughter helped you and your audience find their way back to joy?
Oh, well, I know I sound like I'm deep, but I'm really kind of shallow because I'm all about having fun. And that's really as simple as life is about having fun, which aligns to what you were saying. Is this making you happy? Is this giving you peace? Is this making you calm? So having fun is the number one thing. What was the question? I forgot, because I'm like, I'm gonna have fun.
How has laughter helped you
Yes,
and your audience find their way back to joy?
yes,
Because you seem like a really joyful person.
I
You really do.
am.
It's not an act. She's very
Oh
happy most
no,
of the time.
yeah, yeah, but I do cry. I'm a crybaby, but
Oh,
good tears, like release tears, because
that's
you
healthy.
know, yes, it's not toxic joy. It's I cry. And actually in some of my videos when I talked about the dictatorship and the disappeared ones, I broke up like a couple of times. So I am not all the time joyful, but even in my tears, I am joyful to the fact that I'm releasing something that is kind of hindering my joy.
Yeah.
So laughter is great because it lights up the situation. It kind of gives light to the situation. And it's almost like a flashlight. Like, oh, I have cancer, stage 3. Flashlight. Oh, let me see the funny things. Okay. I would text my friend who helped me a lot through my journey, like the things that happened to me during the treatment, which I had 20 side effects from chemo.
Wow.
I counted them. And I would text her about them and in a funny way because I was so in pain and I was so sick of it that I would just, all I could do was crack a joke. It was
Right.
just, it went so the other way of being painful that it went full circle into let's laugh about this. Yeah, let's just laugh. I always been like that. I always laughed at, even like when I'm crying, when I was crying sometimes with my mom, I would start laughing hysterically and she would start laughing because we were fighting and we were crying and it would be so ridiculous that I would laugh and she started laughing and then the laughter dissolved the fight. We didn't even remember what we were fighting.
So that's actually a really good button, in my opinion, to kind of like start to wrap it up by sharing with people, like, if the theme hasn't come through, we actually heal by laughing. And
Yes.
sometimes you're laughing so hard you forget what you were, crying about at the beginning. And it's not that laughter is the only answer,
No.
but it is one modality
Yeah.
of learning how to express yourself, of finding your voice that can lead you to recovery. So, we
Yes.
talked a little bit about personal safety. We talked a little bit about how to keep yourself safe. Is there anything else you want to share to the audience about having gone through an escape from an authoritarian regime, to how you recovered from narcissistic abuse? Any final notes on how people should be thinking right now or focusing on?
Uh, Two things. First of all, self care. Love yourself, but for real. If you don't love yourself, how can you love others? We're
Right.
a reflection of each other, right?
Right. Yeah.
And also, you can alchemize your pain into something different, into a purpose of helping others. You can alchemize it into laughter. You can alchemize it into joy, into peace. So, we are alchemists. We can transform energy. And I know that sounds super new agey, but it's not.
No.
It's actually quantum physics.
Yeah.
We are electromagnetic beings. Okay. So by the way, the happier you are, the more joy, peace, and everything, your electromagnetic energy is field is bigger. So you're not aligning with dis-ease because you are at ease.
Yes.
So
Nope, that's absolutely the truth.
yes. So just love yourself or nobody else will do it. Even if they tell you they love you gotta love yourself. If you don't believe when people, which I know I had that, I love you, and I wouldn't believe it, it's because you're not loving yourself enough. So
Right.
everything starts with you, the love, the peace, the joy, the enlightenment. Um, and again, discern the voices. Is this
Just
an intrusive thought? I'm going to do a course about that for real. Is
great.
this intrusive thought? Is this my ego or is this my higher self? And
That's
learn how to discern those three things.
love it. Well, I think that's a recipe for people to really like take away. And are you going to pin resources in the comments?
Definitely. I'm going to pin the resources and I'm going to give you this file and you're going to share it on your
Yep.
YouTube and you're going to pin your own comments. Your YouTube is Reach Out Recovery.
Yep.
And also mine, subscribe to my YouTube, you guys. I don't have yours down, but your website is reachoutrecovery.com.
Everything is Reach Out Recovery. The
Reach,
YouTube is
yeah,
Reach Out Recovery, the Facebook, the Instagram, it's all at Reach Out Recovery.
absolutely. And my YouTube is the State of Grace Fraga. Please subscribe, like, comment, and share. And subscribe to Lindsey, Reach Out Recovery on YouTube. And next time, next podcast, we're going to be also streaming to your YouTube.
That's right.
Yes.
Did we decide? I forgot the date. I'm going to
It
look it up.
is, oh, yeah, the next one is going to be May
May
16th
16th.
at
Woo!
11 a.m. I know it's very exciting. So I'm going to be interviewing Lindsey this time because she's got a story, you guys.
I even
Quite
wrote
a
a book
story.
about it.
I know. All right. Thank you so much, Lindsey, for interviewing me and allowing me to tell my story. I really appreciate it. And I'm so happy that we partnered to do this together because we are aligned in our purpose and our mission and how we feel about life and our experiences and how we turn our pain into something beautiful, which is helping others, among other things.
And I think what we've been through is universal. I think there are lots
Yes.
of people going through what we've been through and are
Yes.
going through. And as the world turns right now, everybody could use a little bit of support and self love. So, we're going to talk all about how to recover from the things that have traumatized us,
Yes.
not just addiction, but all different kinds of things. And we're going to share all of our resources because this is what we were put on this planet to do.
100%. That's why we went through
So,
what we went through. So now that we know, we ain't gonna go through anything more. Okay.
that's right. There you
I
go.
am done. It's like no more cancer, no more abuse. It's like just zen. So we can be actually vessels to help others because if
That's
we,
right.
that doesn't mean that we don't have issues. We all have issues. They all come up and we're constantly healing. So remember that, guys. We're just here to tell our experience. It's not like, oh, we're still evolved. No, we're not. Okay. We're still healing. We're still crying. We're still, trying to figure stuff out like everybody else. We're all doing that. And we're just decided to, we're crazy enough to do this.
There you go.
That's it. That's it. All right. Thank you, guys. We love you. And thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you on the 15th. No, 16th.
16th.
16th. Grace, don't get it wrong, girl. Okay. All right. All right. Bye, guys. Are you ready to release the weight of the past and step into a brighter future? In Unlocking Trauma, you'll discover powerful tools to understand, process, and heal from life's deepest wounds. Whether you're just beginning your journey or seeking the next steps, this book guides you with compassion, insight, and proven strategies. It's time to take charge of your healing and reclaim your joy. Let's unlock the door to the life you deserve. Start your journey with our free guide, and for a deeper dive, grab the expanded PDF copy of Unlocking Trauma for just $5.99. Both the guide and book are available now at thestateofgraceshop.com.